Good evening, everybody.
I just found the keys to a city. The beats are big and the lights are pretty. So why can't we go to the busy where the dreams are in the sky? You got me high.
And that's There You Are by Pogo. And yes, here we are. This is Lost Mannerisms. I'm your host, Forrest.
And I'm Alfred.
And we got a big show tonight.
We do. We're going to kind of not take a huge deviation from our format, but you notice we're in a different studio. We're going to be doing a little bit of a different segment, and mostly we're going to be focusing on an interesting discussion that
our studio ties into the segment.
Yeah.
Because our segment today is on cooking.
It is, yeah.
And we're having to, we're making some nice ravioli.
From scratch. Completely from scratch. Actually, everything's from scratch.
Yeah, well,
Even the meat's from scratch.
We didn't make the eggs.
We didn't make the eggs.
So,
That's true.
You know, we didn't go out this morning and pick
That's actually,
eggs.
I think that's the cheese. We didn't make the cheese either. Everything else, though, is pretty much from scratch.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, we're having to sit here and keep an eye on the sauce periodically.
Yeah.
So, our drink, however, does not complement our food.
No, not this drink.
Not this drink. We have been drinking a lot of wine, so who knows. Alfred, what are we drinking here?
This is a whiskey sour.
It's growing on me.
Yeah, it's good. It's good with a little tart. So this whiskey sour, for those of you who may be wondering, is a nice drink made with usually 1.5 parts whiskey, 1 part lemon juice, fresh if you have it, and a good heaping spoonful of sugar. And you shake that over ice and pour it into a lowball glass like we have and enjoy it. They're really good. They're kind of refreshing, sweet, and you can really, this is like such an easy cocktail, you can tailor it exactly how you like it. Because we're using today this Teeling whiskey, which is what you like.
This is a whiskey I went out and bought. I wanted to try it. Normally Irish whiskey tastes like
Jameson. Tastes like Jameson. It's all Jameson.
They all taste like Jameson.
Not that Jameson is bad, but...
Not that Jameson is bad. Jameson's great sometimes. But when everything all tastes the same, it's like, well, why would I buy anything but Jameson?
Yeah.
This doesn't taste like Jameson.
No.
And it's actually aged in rum casks for 6 months.
It is. It's good. Usually I like to use like rye or bourbon for these whiskey sours, but this is good. I was surprised.
Aren't you supposed to use whiskey?
It's all whiskey. That's what I like about whiskey sours. You can use any kind of whiskey that you want. Whether it's Scotch or rye or bourbon.
That's like a whole technical thing. Because Scotch is Scotch whiskey, rye is rye whiskey, and they're all different variations
You
of
use what kind of whiskey that you like.
Okay.
This is good, though.
It is good.
It is.
It's a little tart for me.
Yeah.
But
I like my whiskey sours a little on the lemony side.
A little sour?
I feel like when you have fresh lemon juice, gotta go a little sour.
A little on the sour side?
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on. There's some big news. I know we want to warn you. Our news is going to take up most of our show.
Well, it's because it's not really news. We're going to be having an interesting discussion.
Right. The news has spurred an interesting discussion.
And that discussion is probably going to carry over to our segment.
Yeah, so we're going to have a light segment. And don't worry, we recorded a little bit more. And the little bit extra, if you really want to know how to make ravioli, is going to make it into our individual upload during the week. And nobody's been commenting yet, but you should comment, because if somebody commented on the videos, I just realized that the past 2 uploads have been trash, because I've been using...
That's on you.
We converted to a different video editing software, and in this video editing software they have a direct to YouTube upload method. And this direct YouTube upload method only puts it in 144p.
Ooh.
Which is
That's bad.
Potato.
That is 2001 cell phone camera phone quality.
I have videos from 2001 that are better than this. So comment on our videos. Let us know how we're doing. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Come see more of us. Let us know if we should do anything else. We think this is all absolutely wonderful. I do. Do you?
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it? So if we're doing something that you guys absolutely hate,
Please tell us.
please tell us, because we want more of you to watch
Just
us.
talk to us. Anyone, please. I'm so alone. Please.
Alfred,
Yeah, Forrest.
what's our big hit of news? What's our first?
Well, we're starting off with NAFTA. Trump wants something different.
Yeah.
Specifically, he wants a different name.
Well, yeah.
I think that's all he wants.
Well, I know that he wants a little bit more trade agreement with Mexico, because Mexico was kind of left out with of NAFTA.
Yeah, it was.
So it's
honestly, surprisingly, Trump does, I think, want to improve NAFTA for
but it
Canada
is
and Mexico.
It is 7 parts name, 3 parts improving relations.
Which I think is absurd.
But
it is a stupid name.
But
Hopefully we get a better acronym.
maybe at some point we'll have my thoughts on Trump.
Not today, though. That's
But not today.
That's a different rabbit hole.
That's a different rabbit hole. We are going down the rabbit hole today.
Oh, we
Alfred's clenching over there as we get line by line.
I did my research.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Ariana Grande was groped on television.
She was by who's the reverend?
Oh, I don't know. It's some guy. They were
Speaking at Aretha. You have to say her name.
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, whatever her name is. Very famous singer that you all should be able to pronounce her name.
And if you ever listen to Al Sharpton, he says that she's a great singer and fondly deserving of our RESPICT. So
Did he say that?
he did.
Really?
He did. And the worst part about that is that it was on a teleprompter. So the worst part is it made it through the person who wrote it. Okay. It made it through the editor. And then it made it through Al Sharpton eyeing it on the screen. And she literally spells it out on her song.
You know I peed next to the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a story for another time.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, she was groped. She looked really uncomfortable. I saw some of the pictures. He was getting a little touchy.
If you look at it at the beginning, it looks like he entirely accidentally grabbed the side boob.
It absolutely made... I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he started off as an innocent mistake and then he realized what he was grabbing and didn't stop.
Yeah, it was like, uh-oh. Well, my dog has appeared in the studio. So apparently we now have our third host is here.
Our third host, Timber.
Timber, sit. Sit.
Oh.
Sit. There you go. Good boy. All right. So, yeah, if you look at the video that happens, he reaches over, he grabs her side, and his fingers are just touching side boob. And then you can see him walk his fingers down nonchalantly. But then, like how Alfred said, it's like, he's like, hold on a second. This is Ariana Grande.
And
I'm with you. Look at that, and he just goes, let's pretend the tip of Alfred's shoe is a boob. He just goes, flump.
He really dove right back in and...
But that isn't the funniest bit of news yet. Because as much as that's related to our show and how we think we should be looking at the very good parts of masculinity and
You shouldn't grope people
condemning the
in
bad.
any circumstances, but especially not when you're on national television. You should at the very least try to avoid that, I think, as a bare minimum.
Yeah. That'd be a good guess.
Yeah, I would say just as a general rule.
I wouldn't whip it out on stage.
I would hope not.
So let's but
just ending off with this, I felt like Ariana Grande handled it fairly well, though.
yeah. For a woman who literally went out and licked donuts.
Did she lick donuts?
She licked donuts like that were set up on a display.
Did she?
Yeah.
When was that?
Like she ordered something, the person turned. This was like 3-4 years ago.
Wait, what? I've lost you here. She licked donuts?
So-
is there a video of this?
Yeah. There's a video of this.
We're gonna have to take a break to watch this video of Ariana Grande licking literally anything.
Oh, wow. She like ordered something at this deli that had donuts on an open display. And then as the person turned around to fulfill her order, she just goes like and licks a couple donuts. So for someone who does that on camera in public, she handled this whole thing
She did.
very...
She was fairly calm. She did look uncomfortable, though.
She did
I
look
do feel bad
uncomfortable.
for her.
I hope she makes a big enough deal out of this.
Yeah.
And that's all we can say about that.
Yeah.
But the funniest bit of news, I think, there was a 26-year-old man.
Well, I think that counts as a man. I think that counts. He's off his parents' insurance. Obamacare ends at 26, so
Yeah.
he's off his.
So he is on the cusp of manhood. He's just
paying for his own health
He can
insurance.
rent a car without
He can.
extra stuff. His insurance is going
Is
down.
now
He
his
is,
own insurance.
I guess he is officially a man.
He is a man. I think 26 is the new cutoff for man.
Him and a friend of his, well, man is relative. Well, okay.
He has
Another
to pay
time.
for his own health insurance.
Him and a friend of his were going around farms in Minnesota. And they were going into barns and stealing
lumber.
lumber,
Yeah.
building materials, whatever loose was floating around. And it's funny because it's not it's not really high value items. It's not like he was
No, but grab enough of that stuff. That going to Home Depot, that stuff's kind of expensive.
He was probably stealing between $100 and $200 of stuff, which sucks for the person being stolen
rude,
from.
Frankly, it's rude.
And if he does it consistently, well,
He saved himself a trip to Home Depot.
if he does it consistently, it starts to become a problem.
Mhm.
Actually, one time's a problem. Stealing's wrong.
Yeah,
As a man,
don't steal.
stealing is wrong. We're
Don't
just
steal.
saying this is a kind of small incident, so normally this wouldn't make our show. But what tends to be on farms?
Well, it depends what kind of farm. I know I worked on a horse farm for a few years, and there was a large pile.
Well,
of
wait.
horse-
Animals tend to be on farms.
Yeah,
Now, not all farms, but typically there are some animals on farms.
generally, yeah.
If you have a lot of large animals,
There's big piles of manure.
There's
Yes,
big
we know where
piles
this is
of manure.
going.
This guy wasn't paying attention while he was trying to make his getaway from the coppers, and
Fast response for barnyard theft, frankly. I'm surprised for
Well-
Minnesota.
they took their time. So, I guess they lost him for a little bit. They were like staking out a barn, I think, and they lost him for a little bit. So he would have gotten away, but he just veered off course and wound up in a huge pile of manure. We might be able to add a picture of this.
I hope so, because I want to see this picture. This is the first time I'm hearing
Honestly,
about this.
I saw the picture of. He has like a '90s Chevy, and the weird thing is the pictures of the truck look like he should have been able to get out. But then the story goes on, and they come up to the cops. Finally find him, and they come up to a man who's standing in the middle of the road, smoking a cigarette. Up to his waist, manure. And his shoes are gone.
To be fair, he was stealing lumber from farms. He's obviously,
Missing something.
yeah, a couple screws loose, maybe.
Alright, so we're going to get into the big news.
This is, I would almost say this is not even news. This is a separate segment. This is a
separate
good
segment?
I would say this is a good discussion more than anything.
It's news leading into a discussion, and I think that means we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go.
We're having some camera issues, so please excuse us. We want to jump into. That's why Alfred switched.
That's why
the line.
I've got a different drink.
So we are we want to talk about the news a little bit.
Not so much the news, but an interesting discussion related to the news. There were a couple unfortunate incidents.
Very sad incidents.
Yeah.
One, a college-stage woman, Molly Tibbetts, was murdered,
Yeah.
and she was jogging. An illegal alien came, propositioned her. She said no. He couldn't take the rejection, and so
Yeah, but stabbed her.
stabbed
Yeah.
her. And then in Jacksonville, Florida, young man, I think he was about the same age as the manure guy.
Yeah, actually, playing in a Madden tournament, a video game tournament.
Violent video game tournament. That whole sports ball thing.
Came in second place and basically shot the place up.
Huh.
I think 3 people died, including a shooter.
Yeah. So he killed 2 people,
And he was killed.
Committed
eventually.
suicide.
Oh, he committed suicide.
Oh yeah. So both of these incidents were blamed on one thing. And this one thing is toxic masculinity.
Right.
And Alfred thinks I'm entirely arguing semantics here,
I think you are.
which I might be,
I think you are.
because I have an issue with the word.
Well, why don't we structure this a little more?
No, let me say what I have
Go ahead.
to say. Let me say I have an issue with the word. I think that masculinity by itself is an inherently good word. Now, it's neutral good. It's not solely neutral. It's not solely good. It's neutral to good. So when you label it toxic masculinity, I think by calling it by a word that's neutral good, you are insulting the group that's represented just by masculinity. But at the same time, I think everything that the culture is used to say toxic masculinity is this, as an actual definition, not as there are a lot of people who can't define the term. I think as an actual definition, I think that all of those things are very heinous things. I think that somebody who can't exhibit the strength of character to take rejection, or can't exhibit the virtue of discipline to practice more and come back next year and win, I think those are both heinous things. But I think that as toxic masculinity, it's created an interesting cultural spin that knocks men in society down.
I think toxic masculinity is a perfectly valid, very accurate word to describe a phenomenon that we see. Masculinity, at best, I shouldn't say at best, I think it is very much a neutral term, like femininity. We don't say that with any positive or negative connotation. It's just a collection of attributes that we say a man or a woman has. So masculinity isn't necessarily good or bad. So when you say something like toxic masculinity, you're adding this modifier to it that indicates that we're now talking about the parts of masculinity that are bad. And as we see here, these last recent events have really highlighted, maybe, that there are definitely aspects of masculinity that are negative and that negatively impact people, especially women. I think toxic masculinity comes from a origin of gender studies and the interaction between men and women in our society. And I think to label something toxic masculinity is a pretty accurate way of describing this pretty specific, these pretty specific traits and this pretty specific phenomenon where men are either warping traditional masculine values or they're taking traditional masculine values to an unhealthy extreme, and they're then lashing out with aggressive, violent, antisocial behavior towards women, which we saw with the case with Molly Tibbetts,
Well,
or
it's
towards
not.
other men.
Yeah, it's not. None of it's directly towards women.
I think some of it may be. I think it may be.
I think that it's probably 60% women, 40. Now this is without studying it. I would say that it's
No, you're right. It is. It can be directed towards women. It can be directed towards
It's-
other men. But I think toxic masculinity as a term does a good job of describing exactly what you and I are agreeing on is a problem and
Yeah.
what needs to be discussed. It's the aspects of masculinity that are an issue, and the men who are doing certain things and acting in a certain way that is, by definition, toxic. And so I feel like toxic masculinity does a good job, and I don't see it as insulting men who do hold traditional virtuous masculine values, because my feeling is, like, if you are a kind of like a good man, you're never going to be in a situation where someone's going to describe you necessarily as like exhibiting toxic masculinity. You're never going to be in a case where you react negatively to rejection or you can't handle failure because you're a man and you can deal with that.
One might say that's the point of our show.
That is the point of our show.
We want to bring actual masculine values
Yeah,
back.
because lots of people reject me all the time.
Oh,
Lots
yeah.
of women. Yeah, most
I've
of them.
rejected you a few times, but not in that way. Calm down back there. If you thought this was going to turn into a different kind of filming. See, I think that the big thing to note is that masculinity, man, they all are related. And they're all related to virtue because we get all of our language from Latin, basically. There are a couple other things mixed in, but
Well, I mean, if you want to get really technical, English is a Germanic language, which was not derived from Latin, so...
So how are so many words in America derived from Latin and they have direct Latin links?
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with where our language came from.
Well, okay, so we'll get super technical.
We're not linguists. We don't do that.
But the Latin word for virtue is, pardon my pronunciation if I get this wrong because I don't speak a dead language. It's virtuoso, I believe. Virtuos or something. It's close to that.
I don't speak Latin either.
But it's
so.
close. It's derived from the word vir, V-I-R. And the word V-I-R, vir, means man. So all those things are related. And then if you do a little bit of digging, to be a true man, and maybe that the issue is that I have an issue with the people who are exhibiting toxic masculinity.
Well, I think you do, because my feeling is you're right. Those people who exhibit toxic masculinity are not what we would consider good men or true men, and that's an issue.
No, because if you look into all of how these words were created, how they became accepted in society, you get to look at people like Thomas Aquinas.
But now we're not even talking about the words. I think you're right in saying.
Hold up on this
Okay.
thought. This is a good one. Because people like Thomas Aquinas, Immanuel Kant, they all talk about the point of man is to overcome natural desires, natural tendencies. Things that... Is it safe to say that evolution is a thing?
Yes, I think so.
We've
come to that point.
We're not touching flat world conspiracies here. So, if evolution is a thing, we all come from animals.
Yes.
So, it's safe to say that every human has natural tendencies to natural inclinations, and some of those basic inclinations for animals are
incorrect or
are not
compatible with our society today.
Virtuous and morally superior. Right. They are basic instincts, like what my dog here that I'm resting my foot on that you might not be able to see. He's sleeping. He slept all day. So laziness is a natural instinct.
Oh, come on. Timber's old. He can sleep all day.
Yeah,
He's not lazy.
It's okay. But laziness is a natural instinct because if you're lazy, you're conserving more energy.
That's true. Yeah.
Breeding is a predominant male instinct, so it doesn't matter if someone says yes or no to an animal.
Yeah.
And
those are all
being
good points.
the dominant in the pack whether you have to kill someone or not is things animals do. But it's humans who have become virtuous, who have, through societally listened to some of the teaching of philosophers of days of old, we have moved to having higher morals and attempting to overcome our animal instincts. And that is the whole arguable point of being a true man, being a masculine man.
being able to be rational and understanding and moral.
And one of the big arguments that I've seen against toxic masculinity is a man in someone's life telling you should like cars, or that's so gay.
No, I think the thing there is, it's telling a little boy that if he doesn't like cars, there's something wrong with him. Because that's the thing. I think that liking cars is not necessarily manly. You could like cars and be a man, but you could also like anything else. You could be a great painter or an artist. You could be really into reading books, and that is, as long as you uphold the other values, like the kind of core values of like what being a good person, a good man is, that's important. And that's like the whole point of toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity tries to erase those good parts by saying, like, if you don't follow a certain stereotype, then you're not a man.
But that's cultural. That's not...
But that's what toxic masculinity is.
Masculinity, the whole...
Well, masculinity is cultural.
Of morality and virtue.
But masculinity is cultural.
Is it?
Yeah. Our ideas of masculinity shift with the culture. So, and my feeling is that I just again think that toxic masculinity is a very good way of describing these certain things that are bad, like telling a little boy that he has to like certain things or else he's not a man or not a boy isn't right. And everybody should be allowed to enjoy what they enjoy and develop their talents, and then, like you said, do that in a moral kind of like way, a civilized way where they are trying to better themselves. And that's kind of what this comes down to, I think.
I think a part of the issue is that culturally we have shifted away from what is truly masculine. And
Maybe.
We have focused on traits. We have focused on traits. And culturally we are focusing on traits typically associated with male gender roles.
Now, it's interesting you say that, because I actually think it's the opposite. I think if we go back decades and decades, we start to see that people kind of do that very thing. They associate, if you don't have these very specific set of traits, you're not a man. And we're now becoming aware of the fact that there's a separation between the stereotype and actually being a man, which is why we're in a really good position now, because we can sit back and discuss this and say, hey, these are the things that are really good, and this is what makes you a man, but these other things, this is just a stereotype,
but when was
and it doesn't
Thomas
matter.
Aquinas alive?
Well, Thomas Aquinas is different. Thomas Aquinas wasn't necessarily... When Thomas Aquinas was talking about man, Thomas Aquinas was talking about humanity.
Well, he was, but him and Immanuel Kant both wrote a little bit specifically on males.
They did.
And they were talking on how I think the big thing that we need to focus on in society is to roll back to these old times. Focus on these 7 cardinal virtues, because if you really think about it, if you focus on if you focus on virtues and you realize the importance of virtues as a person, you don't get the issues.
You're right. I think that you do find yourself, like, if you're honestly, if you're a good person and you are a virtuous person, and you can define your virtues in different ways, but I like to think of it as simply being a good person to yourself and to others. You really don't find yourself in a lot of situations where you would be described as toxic, because that's not virtuous, or that's not something that you would want to do to somebody anyway.
I think we have time for one quick description of a virtue.
Okay.
Because as soon as we can, we have a character we are going to be introducing, and he isn't going to make it on the show. I've seen some Snapchats of the position he's in, but his introduction is going to be talking about these virtues, and it's going to be, you'll figure it out. But we're going to give the virtue of strength. Culturally, strength would be, you knocked my drink over. As a man, I should punch you. That's fair. Maybe a little extreme, but fair. Strength is a virtue. Is something entirely different. Strength
right.
is a virtue.
Strength is a virtue.
Being physically strong.
Well, it's not just physically strong. You're
it's
right.
being physically,
mentally,
mentally,
yeah.
and it's the whole point of strength as a virtue is to use your strength to protect others.
Yeah.
And to choose when to use it.
Yeah.
Because you have two options with strength as a virtue: it's strength and cowardice.
Yeah.
And or strength and weakness. And if you're strong, you can defend when it has to. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a fight or flight kind of thing. If you're strong, morally,
well, I think the
mentally,
virtue of strength is not just fight or flight, but it's when knowing to use it to defend yourself, but also to defend others, and that's what defines strength as a virtue.
Whereas if you don't have strength as a virtue and you have weakness, your only option is to run away.
But
or hide behind a mask.
You can even say that weakness, you can be physically strong, but still be weak.
Yeah, but
but
it still
strength
applies.
as a virtue.
Because if you aren't mentally strong, and someone tries to sit down and have a discussion like we're having right now, you'll run away from that conversation. If you aren't emotionally strong, and someone rejects you, you'll go create walls, you'll create an incident.
Or you'll snap.
And if you aren't physically strong, you can't defend yourself, and you'll run away. It all comes to cowardice.
Yeah,
but
I think this is all an interesting point we're getting to now, because we've been sitting here, and this is probably the fourth time we've rehashed this discussion. So we've had this talk quite a few times.
So if this is still recording, which I'm crossing my fingers and hoping it is, our assistant says it's good. We're gonna go check the sauce.
Check the sauce, start making the pasta.
Start making the pasta, and we have then a quick closing to do, and
then we'll be done.
And you'll have our first long episode.
Just isn't done that well. The son of the queen of the left hang.
Can you like going? Yes, those poor people. Well, now we're beginning. Can you like going?
Yeah, I guess so. That's me too. The left hang. The left hang. That's me too.
And here we are, cooking with lost mannerisms. We messed up because we already started. We decided we were going to make ravioli while we were shooting this, our full episode tonight. And we already started by putting the flour and the eggs together. And of course it's the easiest, the actual dough is one of the easiest things you could possibly make. It's an egg per cup of dough.
Per cup of flour. And you can use all-purpose flour or semolina flour if you're getting
per cup of flour, sorry.
Well, that's important.
It is. But, well. And then if you really, really need to, you're allowed to add a little water.
I like to add some oil too. I prefer adding a little bit of oil to keep this moist anyway. This is actually a little bit trickier than it looks. You want to pour your flour onto, you can do this in a bowl and it's a lot easier, but if you want to do it the right way, or the original way, you pour it out on a nice flat surface, preferably like marble or granite works really well. But we're doing it on wood because that's what we have. And you basically create yourself a little like volcano, no flour.
Ooh, wait. You have to get yourself wine.
Oh yeah, you need wine. If we're
Yeah.
cooking, we need wine. I exclusively cook with wine, and since we're filming, we don't have any music on, but normally there would be music on. Yeah, you create yourself a little volcano of flour and crack your, however many eggs you need into there. In this case, we did 2 cups of flour, so we cracked 2 eggs in the center. And you want to kind of keep your eggs in that little center of it and slowly mix in the flour. And just bit by bit, mix it in.
I can tell you want to do it nice and slow because I did this the other night just to prove I could do it. And if you don't do it slowly, you get water, eggs, stuff all over the counter, all over the ground.
Yeah, it
becomes
takes a little
mess.
bit of practice.
But we're gonna get ahead on mixing this.
I would just keep filming it. Like, let's just keep running this for a little bit.
You want? I
Yeah,
want
why
to.
not? That's what I was saying.
No. Okay. I think that's more the what the I think it's more because I didn't get to fuck with the settings a whole lot.
Yeah.
Because it's the trial.
Right, yeah, those eggs were, usually if you're gonna do 1 egg to 1 cup, you need to use large eggs.
That's okay. After we're done filming this shit, we actually probably can take like an hour break and charge. Free range, outdoor access, family forage, grade A large.
Have an extra large, probably were either that or.
We can throw another egg in.
No, it's okay. It's kind of too late to throw another egg in. At this point, I just need to buff it up. Can you get me a glass or something with some water?
Yeah.
You just gotta keep adding water to it at this point. It's coming out okay. Just,
How do we get that other flour in?
we're just not gonna have that much pasta dough.
Yeah, we are.
Well then, in that case, we might need another egg, but.
All right, that's probably enough stock footage, right?
I think so.
That's at least. Alfred, start over on your explanation. Tell them you put it in a ravioli maker tray.
So right now, I'm putting our filling, which is a beef and cheese filling, and instead of the normal ricotta filling, I'm putting this into our little ravioli maker. I've already pressed the shapes into here. It's really easy to use. They're like not super expensive. You get these little metal trays, and they've got shapes for about a 2-inch square ravioli, which is like your standard size ravioli. And they're super easy to make. And I'm just gonna sit here and fill these up. And once I make these, once I've got these all filled, I'm gonna put the top layer of dough on and seal it down with a rolling pin. And now I am taking the top layer of our dough and I'm rolling it into the second layer and sealing the sides down.
What's the set do, Alfred? It seems to make some shapes while you're pushing it in.
Well, we have a ravioli maker, and what this does, this is actually a really nice one. This has the shapes pre-cut into it, so when I press this rolling pin, it cuts and shapes our ravioli for us. It's very nice. Very efficient. The sides with a fork, you can.
If you want to line
If you want to seal the sides with a fork, like crimp them,
See, I just heard that you put a little water on it, and that is a crimp.
you can.
That's how I made mine, and I cut them with a knife. But this will work out. So this is how you've done it. So
You just got to make sure the sides are crimped down,
okay,
preferably with a fork.
well, quality control then.
Just make sure they're sealed all the way.
I take this.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk a little.
So here we have some sauce, which has been simmering for a few hours. It's done. And here we have some pasta that's been boiling for about 5 minutes, so it's also almost done actually. And we're gonna eat our pasta and sauce together. Generally, that's how you do it. And we didn't film anything else about the making of this pasta, but it's gonna be good.
Does the sauce taste good? We checked on
It
it.
does.
We're not going to pretend that we ate it and, oh, this was so delicious.
No, not yet. We're pre-filming this. You'll get the segment later. Well, earlier, but later.
What?
What?
So, pie.
Pie. Yeah, pie. Pie's delicious.
Pie is delicious.
Pie is delicious. Pie is also Android 9. For those of you who like technology and product news and fun things coming out. Android likes to name its new systems after desserts, basically, and in
they had
alphabetical order mostly.
Marshmallow. Oreo. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all desserts. That is like their naming scheme.
Yeah.
And Pi has just they've been working on it, and they just released it recently for the Google's own flagship phone. The Pixel has gotten the Pi update in the last few days, I think, actually, maybe a week or so. And an interesting tie-in with that is Samsung is apparently working hard to roll out the Pi update for its S9. Samsung has been historically very slow to roll out updates. Yeah. They're very, very slow. I know we both have S8s, and they just recently got Oreo, maybe within the last 6 months or so. Which is significant because Oreo came out about almost 2 years ago.
Oh.
So,
yeah. I didn't even know that. I was like, oh, hey, I got Oreo? Wow, look at this. I'm doing good.
Samsung is fairly slow rolling out updates to its flagship models, but apparently they have an S9 running a kind of a trial version of Pi now, so that's a good sign that they're testing for a relatively quick release on their flagship.
They're big on playing Fortnite.
Yes, so the
which I could care. I could care less about. So we're gonna ignore Fortnite and we're gonna jump onto this next quick piece because we could talk about phones for a while.
Yeah, we could talk about phones and Pi, but the point is that Android's got its newest installment in the operating system, the wonderful Android operating system. For those of you who have a brain and don't use Apple.
So a big thing. Related to our interview uploaded last episode.
Our last interview,
electrician interview. If you could bear with the potato quality that was the full episode, or if you watched just the interview.
Which was also terrible quality.
No, the interview is good quality.
Oh, you used like...
I did it differently. Basically what happened was we're using Power Director, and Power Director doesn't tell you that if you use their thing to direct
I'm sure if you had
upload.
read the manual, it would have...
It doesn't say it when you're uploading it. It says that I was doing a high resolution when I was clicking on stuff.
Well, next time we'll read the instructions.
Who needs
In
this?
any case, we're talking about what?
So there is currently a construction worker shortage.
Really?
Yeah. So if you're paying attention to this job, our show.
And you need a job.
If you need a job, you're subscribed to our show. You're alerted to new episodes. You're commenting. You're paying attention.
We're basically a job board now. We're employing America.
Well, and I don't know if it's going to show up right away, but I do truly think that the trades are going to make a huge comeback.
They're not. But
They have to. With the shortage that with there being a
well,
shortage,
there's a construction worker shortage. Kind of
it's
go become a construction worker. You get paid pretty well.
potato, tomato.
You get paid well. It's good.
You know, there was one.
Somebody's gonna watch this. Somebody somewhere is gonna watch this and go become a construction worker, and we're gonna have done a good thing.
And we hope that they are all the better for it. You know, there's
Yes.
this.
It's good. It's good pay. Honestly, it's a good job.
What's the one joke? It's a doctor's toilet starts leaking in the middle of the night, and
I've never heard this joke.
oh, I'll have to look it up, and I think that'll be the intro in the next episode. Because I don't want to give the wrong joke because it's a classic. Even though
I'll take your word for it. And
So,
on that,
on
and on that bad joke,
on
that's
that-
our show.
That's not even a joke. On that run up to a joke. We'll see you on next. Actually, big announcement. I have a firefighter convention to be at.
That's not an announcement.
That
Nobody
is an
cares about
announcement.
that.
Our show is going to be pushed back a week.
I'm moving to a new city. Do you
Yeah.
care about that?
And
No, you
Alfred's
don't.
moving. So our
Who
show is going to
cares?
be pushed back a week. If you're a regular follower.
No one's a regular follower.
No one's right. Well, we want them to be, damn it!
And get with the beat.
So what do you call an Australian?
What do you call an Australian, Forrest?
An Irishman that got caught.